Hi, I'm Larry King, and you're watching Coping with COVID. This is a special series brought to you by PositiveVoices.com and the International Positive Psychology Association. My co-host is Dr. James Pawelski, professor of practice at the University of Pennsylvania Positive Psychology Center and founding executive director of the International Positive Psychology Association. James, what's up for today?
Well, Larry, hi, it's good to see you. Today, we have a very passionate guest. Well, actually, we have the world's leading authority on the psychological concept of passion. He is a recipient of numerous awards, a past president of the Canadian Psychological Association, past president of the International Positive Psychology Association, an award-winning author of the book Psychology of Passion, and a professor of psychology and research chair at the University of Quebec at Montreal. Now, Larry, before we turn to Bob, you've probably interviewed a lot of passionate people. Can you just, does somebody just kind of jump out at you as a passionate interviewee you've had?
So many, from presidents to Frank Sinatra, driven by passion for singing, by passion for life. How do you define passion? Because there's sexual passion, passionate for work, passionate for life. How do you define it, doctor?
Well, the way we define passion is a strong inclination toward an activity that you love, that is important to you, that you spend regular time on, and that is part of your identity. So, for instance, from what I hear, Larry, you're a big baseball fan. So it's part of you love baseball. It's part of your identity. So you don't watch baseball. You are a baseball fan. So you're passionate about it, and it's important to you. So that would be an example. The twist that we've come up with to go in line with the philosophers is that there are two types of passion. And the two types are obsessive and harmonious passion. So people can engage, let's say it can be a passionate baseball fan, but if the person has the choice between watching a baseball game or to go with, a spouse or something, to do something else, the obsessive one might say, well, the game is on. Maybe I should be going with my spouse, but I'm sticking with the game, and that's it. If you have a harmonious passion, you say, well, I'll record the game and I'll go maybe shopping with my spouse. And we've seen that the two types of passions lead to different types of consequences, positive emotions, well-being, and so on. So the two types of passion are present in people, and that's basically how we look at passion.
So Bob, we all want to be passionate, but it sounds like you're saying it's more complicated than just the more passionate you are, the better.
That's correct. I mean, it's not only the number of passionate activities, but the quality of it. So harmonious passion is when it's in harmony with the rest of your life. You can actually, have your cake and eat it too, because then you can actually engage in those activities you love, but you still have a life. So for instance, regarding work, if people have an obsessive passion for work, they might be stuck at some point between leaving at 6 while they have great ideas and everything, or staying, at work and continuing work, but then, we all know what's going to happen, at home. So with harmonious passion, you can actually say, okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm putting down notes here, where I am, the ideas I have, take 5 minutes and then leave and enjoy the evening with the family.
How about in COVID-19, where so many of those things are taken away?
That's such a good point. I mean, I think that passion is more important than ever. For instance, if you have a passion for an activity and you can't work, then you have something to rely on so that you can cope with, the crazy situation we're going through. And not only that for yourself, but you can have an opportunity to share some of your passion with your spouse and even with your kids. There's something we forget is that, kids look up to us and say, how do I deal with this situation right now? And they can learn, how to cope positively by engaging in some activities. And us as parents, we should not impose on the kids our own passion, but also engage in some of their own, so that the whole family actually grows together. And the other thing I want to also underscore is for our first line responders and our people involved in the health situation, they have to be to remind themselves not to be obsessive about it, but to protect themselves at the same time as they're providing help. We've done research with Doctors Without Frontiers, with the Red Cross, and when we follow people over there, and afterwards when they come back, people with obsessive passion to help actually come back with poor health, PTSD, and so on. Whereas people with harmonious passion came back in much better shape than when they left. So how you provide help, don't lose yourself out there. Remind yourself that you have to take care of your health as well.
Bob, that's so important from the perspective of the providers. What about from the perspective of the rest of us? It's hard not to obsess these days, whether it's obsessing over the latest headline or how do you keep from obsessing in times like these?
That's such a good point. I mean, because it's easy just to watch the news 24/7, and that's probably the worst thing you could do, because then it's right there in your face and all the bad news and everything. I think what people could do is basically look at this as some kind of opportunity to grow, to develop some new things they could engage in. Pick up a book and try to see, and reflect. For instance, I had a friend who called me up a couple of weeks ago and said, I don't know what to do. I'm working from home, but and I said, what were you doing when you were a teenager? He said, well, I was playing the guitar. I said, where is it? He said, it's in the basement. So that's a sign, right? He kept the guitar. So I said, it's time to pick it up and maybe play with the kids and your wife or something. And then, so right now they have a family band. So.
Can you develop a healthy passion?
I think it's clearly possible to, and the one thing we need to remember is, trying to find out, don't lose yourself out there. Remember who you are. And then if you know who you are, then you can start looking for some type of activities that you might be more inclined to appreciate and will resonate with your identity, because it's part of what passion is. It's part of your identity. So when people start to try different things, that's what, as parents, we need to do with the kids. I mean, I strongly believe in what I call the cafeteria approach, where our job is to allow kids to try out a lot of different things. And at some point, they'll come and say, hey, I like this thing. I said, would you like to spend more time on it? Yeah. So you take either a summer course or something, and then maybe it's going to turn into a passion or not. But the worst thing you can do is impose your own passion on the kids, because at some point, it will, if you're probably going to kill any interest in the activity, or worse, it could develop into an obsessive passion. And obsession is not good with all the guilt emotions and so on associated with it.
So Bob, it sounds like you're saying that passion is domain specific. Like it's not like I'm passionate or I'm not, but rather I can be passionate about different things. Is that right?
That's correct. It is highly activity specific, and even more specific than domain specific, because you could, for instance, I'm a basketball player, but I don't like swimming. So, so there's specific activities that will connect with your identity. And these are highly specific. And further in music, I love playing the guitar, but I'm not very good at the piano. So depending on the people and what connect with their identity, you might have different activities there. So you don't have a trait. You cannot be passionate for everything. Last I checked, not very few people were kind of passionate for taking the garbage out. So, or that's something to keep in mind, that not everybody's passionate about the same thing, but around 85% of people are at least passionate about one thing in their life. Could be work.
What's the most interesting study you've ever conducted about passion? What did you find?
Well, that's an interesting question, because we've done quite a few. Excuse me. The one that I think was kind of very telling is that we've done studies on yoga, and what we found is that Yoga is only good for you if you do it out of harmonious passion. People with obsessive passion for yoga, actually, when they do the yoga, they experience, negative emotions while doing it. So it's supposed to be good for you, but depends how you do it.
So Bob,
Wow.
before you joined us, Larry and I were just talking about people that he's interviewed over the decades. And I was just asking him about, passionate people that he's interviewed. My guess is maybe you have to have been passionate to have gotten to the point where Larry would be interested in interviewing you, right? Because that's part of what gets people to those kinds of areas of success. Is this just natural, or is it nurture? Like, how does passion develop?
That's an interesting question. I think it's a bit of both. I think we have this intrinsic need to grow. In fact, this need to grow is so important that even when we die, our body keeps growing, our hair, nails, and so on. So we have this inborn capacity to grow. And one way to achieve this growth is to become passionate about something. Then you become an expert. So if you're a baseball fan, you know all the names, the teams they played on, the championships and so on, how many World Series the Yankees have won and so on. So you get to know that because you're passionate. So it's one way to grow is to be passionate. Now, the type of activity that you're going to be passionate about depends on your environment. So very few people from Nigeria will actually become hockey players. Obviously the climate and everything is, but from Quebec, in Canada, a lot of them are actually, because of the geography and everything, the climate. So we have this need to grow, and passion is important in that perspective. But the type of activity we'll be engaging in depends a lot of the family, the environment, and so on. So it's a bit of both.
Does it relate to well-being?
Big time. I mean, imagine it, especially if the passion is harmonious. Imagine because the people we've tested, that's about maybe like 100,000 people we've tested and surveyed and so on. They, on average, engage in the activity between 8-10 hours a week if it's not work, and if it's work, it's more than that, obviously. And if you have a harmonious passion, you experience positive emotions each time you do it. So imagine that. It's a bonus effect of pleasure and happiness that you experience that translate into psychological well-being. And, there are these theories that, that actually suggest that there's some kind of a treadmill effect, where if you keep on getting those positive emotions each time, there's no treadmill effect. You keep on getting better. When we follow people over time, their well-being increases over time continuously with harmonious passion. With obsessive passion, there's a slight decrease over time. And if you're non-passionate, actually there's a decrease in well-being over time as well.
So Larry, I actually want to ask you about this question because I think it's really fascinating. Somebody like you, well, you've interviewed a lot of passionate people, but a reason why you've been successful in that career is because you yourself obviously are passionate. You bring a passion to what you do.
Right.
And part of what strikes me about your career is, you didn't flame out. Like Bob is saying, if you're obsessively passionate about it, you get all, but it was a passion. It was something that grew and you continue to do over decades. Does that resonate with you? Would you say that passion was a key part?
Absolutely. In fact, every successful person I've ever interviewed had a great passion for what they did. And that never relented, or as it didn't end when they were 80 years old. The passion continued throughout their lives, and if they were retired, then they remained passionate reading about what they did. It relates to well-being. Can it get out of control, doctor?
Yes. Especially if the passion is obsessive, they will come back and bite you from behind big time because it drives you, it controls you to the extent that at some point you will start to suffer. And when we look at our research on passion and burnout, what we find is that obsessive passion is a huge predictor of burnout and depression and so on. So with harmonious passion, you don't get that. You have your cake and eat it too, because like you just said, Larry, I mean, like you love what you do and you keep on doing it. and you have all these positive emotions and well-being that you experience, but then you can also have a life in addition to that.
Why does in a because I've had a few of them. Why in romantic relationships does passion die?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question. I mean, obviously, one of the things that happen is that people take, the partner for granted, and they get into a routine where they don't throw in their relationship new stuff, new activities that they can engage both of them. So you need to reignite sometime what was used to be there, and passion for the relationship has to be obviously harmonious. But then you have to leave room, especially with harmonious passion, to throw in there additional activities that you can share, connect, surprise yourself in there, so that there's something new going on, and that both of the partners can share. And what we find also in our research is that with harmonious passion, you keep on growing both yourself as an individual, so you don't lose yourself, but also the relationship growth together. That's something, don't lose yourself in a relationship. Remain entirely yourself. Keep your own identity, but add to this the relationship. So the fusion that people try to do sometimes may not be as positive as expected, because then the person has lost him or herself in the process.
So Bob, what happens if you do find that you're losing yourself, like you're obsessively passionate about your romantic relationship or about your work or about anything in your life? What do you do if you find yourself already there in that?
Well, a couple of things, and I cannot take credit for this. This comes from Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who said that contrary to the Greek philosophers, the Greek philosophers said, don't get into passion, it's bad for you. But Jean-Jacques Rousseau said the opposite. He said, with the romantics, he used to say that passion, life without passion is not worth living. And when people ask him, how do you control passion? He said, well, develop another passion for something else. Only another passion can control one passion. So for him, it was not reason. It was basically another passion that would control the passion. So that's exactly what we found. The happiest people are those that have multiple activities they're passionate about, but it's all harmonious passion.
One of your passions is music, right? You wrote a song about frontline providers. Tell me about it.
Well, it's I'm currently writing a book, and every time I get into creation, it opens up this door where I engage in music creation. I like to write songs, so when I wrote my 2015 Psychology of Passion book, I wrote 2 songs. That was during the Olympics. I wrote 2 songs about this kind of experience for athletes. And now I just, it's in our face all the time, right? The COVID and everything. So I actually wrote 4 songs during the process, during the last month or so. But one was about the providers. And for me, the image, it's all images, and to convey the emotions. And then the image that I had was a woman doctor or nurse that was trying to explain to her daughter or son that she had to leave to take care of those who were ill or something. And that's what the song was all about. It was trying to provide that message, and that's how it came about.
Any session for our viewers?
I'm sorry, I missed the last question.
Have you got any final tips for our viewers on the subject of passion?
Yeah, well, one thing is that this is a very hard situation. It's very demanding. It's something that obviously we wish we didn't have to go through. People may lose their job. People may actually lose, close ones and everything. But throughout all of this, there might be a silver lining. It's a threat. It's also an opportunity to grow, to develop new things, do activities, and to maybe rekindle, flame with the loved ones. We're going to be spending a lot of time, and passion is part of this. So all of this makes sense, but remember to do it harmoniously and not obsessively. And I think we should be, in better shape.
Thank you, Bob. Bob has been a great help, Jim.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, James.
All right, Jim, what do we take away from today's session?
Well, what an interesting conversation, Larry, about passion. And it turns out passion is a little more complicated than maybe we think about it. And what I liked about what Bob was talking about was thinking about passion in two modes, right? So harmonious passion versus obsessive passion. And it's not just the more passion, the better, but it's the healthy kind of passion where you're able to focus on things that matter to you, but not in a way that you can't see anything else. And so if you do find yourself in that kind of a obsessive passion where you're just thinking about one thing, for example, in these days with the coronavirus, it can be easy to get obsessed with the news. What's the latest update? Or with trying to make sure that we're keeping safe, or with trying to make sure that we're keeping loved ones safe. And those are all important things to do, but not in an obsessive kind of way. So it's important, as Bob was saying, go down to the basement, see if you've got an old guitar there, reawaken your interest in old hobbies that maybe you've had, things that feed your soul, so that you can have a kind of balance and be able to continue to increase your well-being and to continue to care for ourselves and other people that are important to us.
I understand we have a song written by Bob Vallerand. Can we hear it?
With those who suffer, I got to be, to help them through pain, sorrow, and fear. So stay strong, and child, you need me. You know I'll always be here. I'm leaving today, so that we can all be here tomorrow. But please, don't you worry, I'll be right back before you know. Like the ones before me, it is my time to give. And like those who've led the way, this is how I choose to live. I'm leaving today, so that we can all be here tomorrow. But please, don't you worry, I'll be right back before you know. Someday you'll be just like me, and you will face that choice. But if you listen carefully, you will also hear the voice. I'm leaving today, so that we can all be here tomorrow. But please, don't you worry, I'll be right back before you know. I'm leaving that we'll all be here tomorrow. But please, don't you worry, I'll be right back before you know.
Another great session, James. Good talking with you.
Thank you, Larry. You too, man. Take care. Be well.
Be well.